Well, guys, I talked about it last video, I think. We're redoing the patio. We're extending the patio. We're making it bigger. We're putting the kitchen in, all that other happy stuff that I have been putting off long enough. So I have had 15,000 pounds of paver sitting in my driveway for probably a month now. And just been waiting for the time to get to start working on it. And it's upon us. Now, as it would happen, because, that's just how things work, it's going to be 94 degrees today. This project is not going to be something that is going to be quick. It's going to take us a while. So it's May 31st now. By the time you watch this, who knows what it'll be when it's all said and done. But it is labor intensive. I did get some estimates on somebody coming out and doing concrete work, and to the tune of between $7,000 and $10,000. It was not in the budget this year, so I don't want to wait. We really want to use this space. Swimming season's here, and then some. It looks like I'm going to have to do the work myself, and trust me, I am not lying to you when I say I have no desire to do any of this. But what are you going to do? So somebody's got to do it. So I've got some time off. We're going to get started, but that means that everything around me has to go away. So I've got to figure out a place to put all this furniture. Got to take up all the landscaping stone that I've got all over the place, or at least what's left that I haven't moved yet. And I got to start taking up old patio pavers just so we can see what we're working with. Good news, I think. The base of this patio is pretty good, at least the main patio. It is a little bit off as far as where it's settled and stuff. We can work with that. We're going to be using a product called Brock Paver Base. I've used it in a couple projects already. I've used it kind of in small form over in my area way, a landing pad when you come upstairs from when people go downstairs after they've been drinking all day and have to go to the bathroom after being in the pool. And then I also used it in our little sun deck over there. I'm pointing as though you can see it, at the edge of the pool where we keep the lounge chairs, and it has worked out very well. So it's expensive. It is about a ½ inch foam board, 2x3 foam boards that will interlock, and all your pavers get laid on that. It means you need much less base, much less surface prep. Still some involved, but I have had very good luck with it, as have other people that I know that have used it, with keeping everything on level and on plane here so that things don't settle as badly. This patio here is, 12 years old. And so I did that as soon as we built this house, before there was ever even a lawn in here. And I will tell you that I cut some corners and I rushed. We're going to try not to do that this time. But sitting here talking about it isn't going to change the fact that this work needs to get done. And I've only got so much time allotted. So I'm going to shut up. I'll give you the lay of the land real quick here in a second. But outside of that, just got to get to work and start doing labor. 94 degrees, high humidity. I can't wait. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, so this is that concrete pad that I just poured last week. So it's 6 inches thick, and it is going to give us a firm base to put our outdoor kitchen on. So this section here is actually going to have a 1-foot overhang on the front when you do the countertops, and that's going to be our bar area. Be a cutout for the grill, and then more countertop space and an inset burner, and the smoker will go over here and stuff like that. This will all be patio pavers. This will all now be patio pavers as well, all the way over almost to the end of that flower bed there, clean across. So we're going to net another probably close to 200 and some feet of patio area. Put a nice little table over here, and then here's the original patio. So the stairs remain, and all the little retaining wall blocks come out. We're going to build out our retaining wall. Well, it's not really a retaining wall. It's actually more just like a divider between spaces. But there'll be some furniture over here now instead of the grill and stuff like that. But we're going to build that wall up just a little bit and change it, extend some of the patio just a little bit over to here. And then we're going to put a trench drain, which I purchased a while back, all the way along here. And we're going to raise the level of the patio some. So most likely we'll be closer to that level. You can see everything slopes down all the way down. That's just a product of what was here before. Not so much settlement, but just this is how it was. We never really did much else with it, knowing that eventually we were going to do something. But one thing we've learned, so the landscaping stone's great, as far as not having to worry about people tracking things, but it doesn't feel so good on your feet. So we are going to reuse it. I'm going to put some over around the edge of the pool there, most likely, and the edge of the pool here, really just to keep the grass interface down, but it's going to be minimal. People do not like to step on it. That means me. It's very uncomfortable. We actually just built this little planter area on the end because it just gives us a nice square area to come off of for the patio versus having to try to figure out how we were going to transition around. Since the concrete's thinner here, it's 4 inches here and it's 8 inches over here to compensate for where the difference in grade. I said, don't ask me why they did that, but that's what they did. And so that's what we have to work with. So anyway, anybody knows anybody that wants any patio pavers? It looks like I'm going to have some available for free. Probably going to put them on Craigslist. But yeah, all this furniture's got to go. And then when we are done, I think we're going to have a much better project. Project? No, product. But that is some time. So let's get to it. Well, friends, this is about 3 or 4 hours worth of work. It is now like 92 degrees, but all the rock is up, at least the rock that I need. Incidentally, right there, that is the French drain I installed when the pool was put in, which is coming out. Should be pretty easy to remove, and then that's where the trench drain is going to go all the way over to the end to carry the water somewhere over there in the side yard. But yeah, this took me a little while, but all the pond stones out. Cleaned everything up, got all the old weed block, at least almost. Leave those 2 stones over there so my wife doesn't end up getting all muddy when she's watering her flowers. But this is the starting point, and now that that rock's out of there, I can see we have a pretty big grade change over here. So realistically, if you look at where the concrete is, the pavers are going to be about a ½ inch to an inch lower than what the concrete is. So it looks like we're going to be doing a lot of fill, which is fine. I'll show you what we're going to do for that when we get to that point. But this side of the patio is going to be kind of the second phase. We're going to get the main patio up and relayed, probably starting from the pool side here once I concrete in the trench drain so that we have the exact grade that we want to, transitioning up to the pool. And I don't want any like little slivers of paver. If that's going to go anywhere, I'd rather that be back up against the house. So yeah, this is the end of day 1. I mean, you could probably call this day 3.5, but we'll call this day 1 of the actual patio. Tomorrow, I'm gonna get out here, start pulling patio pavers out and moving them over. I think that'll take me a couple hours. I'm gonna get out nice and early before it gets too dang hot, and then we're gonna see what we're working with. We'll run some string lines, see how much material we either have to add or take out. But I actually think we're going to be okay for the most part here on the main patio. We definitely are. Looks can be deceiving. We definitely are going to have to take some land out over there, but we're going to have to add some back in over here because everything just kind of slopes down. And we'll probably have to grade a little bit out of here, but that's truthfully not a big deal. So till tomorrow, we'll see. Well, good morning, friends. It is the next day, as you might have seen by the overheads. Getting to work. Patio pavers are gone. Took me about 2 hours. Tell you what, it wasn't that bad. So they're stacked and ready to go in pretty good condition. And the substrate's in pretty good condition. So when we put this patio down, we really did not do it right. And so we used whatever sand that the landscaping company around the corner told us we should use, and they were wrong. Whatever it was, once it got wet, it became very mushy and very unstable. So A few years later, probably 4 or 5 years later, we brought in some stone dust, took out all the old sand, because at that point there were still no houses around here, so I was able to dump that all around me on these other lots. So somewhere buried underneath of there is our old sand, but we were able to bring in some stone dust, and quite a bit of it, probably 4 or 5 truckloads, and we put down that on top of the crusher run. And that stuff compacts like concrete. Once it gets wet, it's good to go. And so that's really what you see here. You get a little bit of infiltration from just stuff we've done. Like over here, I had to do some replacement of the material just because of when I ran the electric for the pool and this accessory outlet. But I reused the same stuff just in bag form, but otherwise we used it in bulk. And that's what we're going to do here again. We're going to take some measurements. We're going to see exactly how much we need, kind of to bring the level up perfectly to where we want it, because I said the base is still good. And then from here, we may have to take some dirt out on this other side, definitely take the grass out. We'll bring in some crusher run and a little bit of the stone dust. But this Brock paver base, so this is what I was talking about yesterday. If you haven't seen it, it's basically just a foam panel that goes down. Now, funny thing, this is for your information. If you go to Home Depot, they are not the same ones that Lowe's sells. The same product, different dimensions. So the ones at Home Depot are a little bit smaller. They're about 20 or 22 inches versus the ones at Lowe's, which are a full 3 foot by 2 foot. So 36 inches by 24 inches. So these are the ones from Home Depot. I didn't know that when I bought these, and I only bought these because we had some settling back here a couple years ago, and I put these in, and that absolutely stopped the settling. But since we're going to be using the ones from Lowe's, 2 foot by 3 foot, we are going to just pull these out and get rid of them. It's only 3 panels, and we already have to spend like $1,000 in order to do it. They're not cheap. They're like $12.90 something, you know, whatever the market value is right now. They're not cheap, but considering that I really don't want to do this patio again, I'm just going to spend the money. And sometimes when you got the money, you might as well spend it. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit extra, but I think it's worth it in the long run. So the next thing we're going to end up getting into today is finishing busting out the rest of this concrete. I just kind of stopped because I got bored, but that's going pretty well. I just got to put something up so it doesn't scatter over into the pool, but bust this out below grade and cut that pipe off. That's where our old shade sail used to be. We got one over here too on the corner, but that one is low enough that it's not going to affect us. We can just go ahead and paver right over it. It's not a big deal. But this one's got to come out. And then take up all the old patio edging. We're not going to reuse that. We're going to be using something else. And we got to take out these dog tie outs, which are actually what I use to secure my shades when it gets real sunny out. So we're going to come up with something different once the patio is all done, but for right now they can come out. And well, that's going to do it for today. Once we get all that stuff done, I'm going to take some measurements, see how much materials we have, and then I'm going out on the road to a couple of the local distributors to see what I can find. Most likely we're probably going to need 2 or 3 cubic yards of crusher run, maybe 4 yards of crusher run, and I'm thinking probably 2 yards of stone dust to start. That's the plan, and then if we've got to get more delivered, we will. But luckily the landscaping companies around here that we go to, the supply yards, their deliveries fairly agreeable as long as you're pretty close. So I'm going to end it off here. Next time you see me is going to be probably putting down Brock paver base, because again, we're going to put this down first, get this all done so we've got an area to work from, and then we'll start expanding out from there. Adios. I'll see you in a few. Alright guys, we are back on day 3. I really haven't put in a full day yet, but today is day 3. So what we've got going on today is the trench drain. So I've already formed it up, which I know you guys missed all that, but you don't really care about me digging and cutting wood and stuff like that. So this is how this is going to go. So ideally this stuff is supposed to be set all the way up to kind of the top of the trench drain in concrete. But you can set it so at least the base is anchored. So because of what we want to do is leave enough concrete so there is a 2-inch lip. So those pavers will butt right up against to it, and then the trench drain will be flush with the patio. So what I've done is just transfer it off. So for my measurements and everything, the new patio was actually going to give us a much better transition to the pool. It's going to be about 3.5 inches down. You can't see that probably on the video, but there's some of it. It's a 3.5-inch pencil line there, and that's what all these forms are based off of. So everything's going to kind of gradually slope from the house over to here and then basically level out
headed into the trench drain. Now, normally what you would probably want to do is slope that trench drain all the way over towards the drainage point, which is at the far end, but it's such a long run, trust me, that's going to be very noticeable. So we're going to keep it basically level. And there isn't enough water coming through here that it shouldn't still collect it, channel it right down, and then it'll come out a 4-inch pipe down at the end here once we get everything said and done. But yeah, because of the little wall here, it actually juts out some. So what'll happen is we'll actually stand this trench drain 3.5 inches off the actual main part of the pool, and then it'll hug all the way down this 4x4 wall here, which not very far. But I did get a whole bunch of crusher run and a whole bunch of stone dust delivered yesterday, and it is a lot. It is way more than what I needed. I ended up going overboard just because it's not one of those things I want to go ahead and order more later. I can always figure out a way to get rid of it, but it's a lot. So forms are up. I had to come up with something clever. That's what I like to call it. It's clever. Because I don't want to be securing these forms to the concrete and putting holes in it. So I came up with these little cantilever brackets that just work on friction. Incidentally, those blocks there are going to be our edge stone all the way over here. We'll continue this wall out some that way perpendicular, and then those will butt up against it, and that's going to be our transition, and then our pavers will butt flush clean right up to those. Makes sense in my mind. You'll see it. That'll probably be a tomorrow project. So the next stage is to go feed the kids because they're out of school permanently for the summer, and then I'm going to start mixing up concrete and dumping concrete into this trench. And what we'll do is we'll just go little by little and mix up probably 3 bags at a time, go this way, this way, this way, this way, and start putting trench drain in and setting it. And then I've made, and I honestly don't know where they all are, but I've made these blocks. And so this one is for close to the pool here, and then the other one floating around here, which is right there, is actually meant to sit up here. So what it'll do is it'll give me that 2-inch gap down from the top of the form that I need to make sure that my concrete's where it needs to be, and they are designed to fit on either side of those trench drains, which I'll show you guys in a couple minutes, and give me a nice 2-inch ledge underneath that I will butt my pavers up to. Seems to make sense to my eyes. All right, be back in a few. So it's about, I don't know, 3-4 hours later, and it's done. So nope, turned out really well, actually. I am quite happy. It took my time, obviously, but it took more concrete than I thought. Luckily, I had calculated over, and perfect, exactly as I wanted it. So no, that's not the final elbow, that's just a piece of pipe sticking out. I'll pull that elbow off, extend it out some, and bring that out into the yard, and that's where it'll drain with the pop-up emitter. So yeah, the whole concept here is that I can lay pavers right up to that. So with that 2-inch ledge, and then our underlayment will come up flush with that and just transition straight onto that, and nothing will settle. Everything's compacted under there. I'll have a little bit of cleanup to do. I've braced everything in place so it can't float up. And up close and personal, this is what it looks like. So if you see, it's got these little feet, and there are some U-shaped kind of tangs down there, and the goal is you got to get the concrete over top of those, and then that way when the water does, not if, but when it ends up going underneath, it won't float the thing up. So now it's encased in concrete. Where people go wrong with this, from what I've read, it's not an issue for me because that's always how I planned on doing it, is that they will just set this stuff in the dirt or potentially sand and then just butt pavers right up to it, right along the edge of the lawn, and that just doesn't work out. Water gets underneath, hydraulic pressure just pushes it right up out of the ground and heaves it. Doesn't take much. So this is done right. It's very heavy. It's at least 1,000 pounds. Actually, it's probably more than that. It's about 1,300 pounds of concrete here. So if it goes anywhere, now all this down here, I just had some extra, just put it down, and that'll all be covered with crusher run and some sand, and then the patio will probably come right to about here. So it doesn't really matter. Just figured I'd make sure that, one, that little retaining wall doesn't go anywhere, and two, it's in there really good, and I had some extra. So anyway, that's it for today. It's about 4:30. Tomorrow I'm just going to do a little bit. I will probably just do the small little wall that I was talking about over there, just a ledge that the patio is going to butt up against, and I will finish off the side of this wall with that 90-degree turn. We won't really build it up yet, but at least I have to move that landscape light. We'll come out 90 degrees this way, and that way our retainer will come straight across to that. That won't take me very long. And then I got a birthday party to go to for a friend, so tomorrow's pretty much a wash. And then Sunday, yes, Sunday, we are going to start laying patio pavers. We'll bring in some more crusher run. We'll get this all filled in and compacted after we strip off the forms, and we'll get to it. We'll start putting patio pavers down. We actually might be able to get most of this area done on one day. And then sometime the following week, over the time that I've got, we're going to bring in some more crusher run and we're going to finish this off. Strip out the grass. We're making progress, people. Stand by. Well, it's occurred to me that it's been a few days since I've actually recorded anything. It was a pretty busy weekend, as predicted. And this is where we're at. It is Monday morning at about 10:30 or so. And we've taken our forms off. I did that a couple days ago. And I have leveled out and compacted crusher run and stone dust. And we've even set our first layer of pavers. Also, you may notice the curb detail over here. So that is the retaining wall block. And they're set about 8 inches total because there's 2 4-inch layers. And what you can't see here is, one, everything's adhered together, but two, down below there, right where that dark layer of dirt is, there's concrete and rebar to keep that thing from walking. So we shouldn't have any issues. I fixed the corner and rebuilt the corner in the opposite direction. It actually used to go out that way a little bit, and nice and square. Move the landscaping light. Got to bring some of the rock back in, but everything buttons up nice and tight. I really am happy with the way that this curb turned out, and everything will butt up against that and will be exactly the same on the other side of the patio, 35 feet over that way. As far as anything else goes, we did run into, I won't call it a setback, I'll call it kind of a deletion of things that I should have been doing. I came over here to compact all this, and I realized, hey man, there is no way that that water, as it comes down, is going to be able to drain out from this little area here once we get everything done, get it paved. So what I ended up doing was taking some more trench drain and setting it, and what you can't see is underground, it ties right over into our seepage pits. All of our downspouts in the area here by code have to go into a seepage pit. There's one on each side of the house, and they are enormous. So underground, we tee into that in a 2-inch pipe because it's all we really need. And if you look really close, you'll be able to see the duct taped off drain right there. And basically the same treatment as anything else, but so much easier to fix it now before we realize that there's water pooling back here. And as a side note, if you've never worked with crusher run, which I have, and this stuff's actually pretty good, it is like concrete when you compact it. So you mist it with water, get it a little damp, and then hit it with a compactor, and I'm just using a hand tamper. It works perfectly. This stuff is hard as a rock. On a side note, this will work out well for our cooler because I can tap a little hole into that grate there and run a tube up, and the cooler will sit right here and drain all the time. But yeah, I had to take the downspout out and everything, but it took me a couple hours just to running around getting parts, but it turned out well. And it's one of those things that you're never even going to notice is there because hopefully everything's going to work right. Incidentally, you can see our finishing detail now a little bit more closely as to what I was talking about. And so we've set these pavers back. These pavers, this first row, are set off of the pool, and they are 15 7/8, which is the exact width of these pavers. And so what we'll do when we come back later, after it all said and done, I'll cut pieces to fit here and here right up to that. And you can see how our lip transitions with the Brock paver base. This stuff's great. Like once you really get going, so this is the first thing I've done. I've been out here for about an hour and a half, just getting that first row set. Now that I've got that done, everything should go a lot quicker. I should be able to level this out pretty quickly. I mean, I've already kind of done some preliminary leveling, if you will, but I'm just really mostly just eyeballing it and throwing stone dust down where I have to. It's not perfect yet, but as we get closer and closer, it will be. One thing you can't see, but I can feel, is that there's a crest kind of right here, and it slopes down. So I'm running a mason's line, and basically what I'm doing is setting the paver base off of two different sections of paver. So I'll set a paver over there. I'll set a paver over there. Make sure they're at the same level, because I also have lines coming down the side here, which right now they're down because I needed to get some stuff through. But they're set at the slope that I want. And I run those lines in between because each paver is set to the slope that I want on each side, and I run a mason's line and some mason's blocks all the way across, and that just lets me fill in the gaps. I know what measurement I need to the top of the block paver base to get the pavers to sit right. So that's the process. It's a little tedious, but because we're kind of starting in with old material, it isn't as easy to dig down, get some pipes, do the screeding and all that. I could probably figure that out. I just don't want to. So any rate, I'm gonna get back to work. Gotta take my daughter to the doctor's later. So we're gonna see how much we can get done. My hope is by the end of tonight, most of the field of the main patio is laid back down again. I'd really like to be doing polymeric sand tomorrow, and then see if we can get over to here probably tomorrow, and then the rest of the week after that is gonna be fixing all this up. So we gotta get all that grass out, figure out how much of this dirt we're actually gonna reuse, set our new retaining wall, and that's going to take some time. So I don't think we'll finish it this week, but I'll definitely make a dent in it. Well, everybody, I did it again. It's been 2 or 3 days since I've recorded anything, and once you get on a roll, you just got to keep going, right? The patio, at least the main part of the patio, is done, including the polymeric sand. That's why some of this is still damp. I just finished wetting it down. About 400 square feet is complete, and we will seal it, but that's probably going to come when the entire patio is done, after I do phase 2 over there, probably in the next week or so. But last time you guys saw this was probably just a strip of pavers. For you, it was only a few seconds ago. For me, it was about 3 days. And I tell you, laying the pavers wasn't really the difficult part. Cutting in all the pavers just took some time. It probably took me, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours using a gas rotary saw, an electric rotary saw, and a 4.5-inch grinder. And just a lot of little intricate cuts, and quite a bit of them to do. So I went through 3 pallets of stone. I got 2 left, so plenty left over to do over there. I'm probably going to end up having some left, which is fine, but I'm not going to think about that right now. Again, happy with the way that it turned out. Once this dries up, we'll be able to get some furniture back on here and start using it again. It's been a little over a week, so from start to finish for this particular part of the project, that 400 square feet, because again, we did add some. So looking at it, that wasn't here before. This is the back side of our future kitchen, and we've just extended it a lot more than what was there before. So we ended up with about 400 square feet. And see, I started officially on Thursday of last week, I think, preparing everything, to include getting the forms set up, setting up the trench drain and stuff like that. And it is now Friday of the following week, so a little over a week, but less than a week for me to lay everything down. And that is one person doing it for pretty much 5, 6, 7, and even 8 hours a day. So it can be done. You just got to put time and energy into it, and you got to take your time and make sure things turn out the way that you want them. Next thing you guys will see is probably the finished product. I may do a little bit of filming when I'm compacting this base down, just to kind of show you what the process is, but I got a lot of cleanup to do over here anyway. On a side note, I didn't have that many broken pavers, 2 in fact. One of the things I read about these cobblestone pavers is right down the center on those seams, a lot of times they will snap. Right off the pallet, I only had 1 that was already broken, and 1 I broke myself just by tapping it and tamponing it down. So pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that so far. 3 pallets, 1 broken one on the pallet. I can't complain about that. And they cut very well. So keep that in mind if this is one of the products that you're looking at. Morning, everybody. I have to apologize for the wind. I don't know what the heck is going on here. But yesterday was 90, and today it's like 65 and windy. Go figure. Anyway, a quick update. Been about 5 or 6 days since I did that little retaining wall slash border wall. And this morning I got up, went ahead and compacted all the soil that I had, and then I brought in the crusher run, probably 3 dump carts full, And I just finished leveling and compacting that. And so the next thing up is going to be my paver sand. I'm going to put a wheat blocks down first because this whole section's new and it doesn't have one. But if you're curious as far as what you do for starting from scratch, this is pretty much where we're at. I did take out all the sod first, and then, like I said, I compacted the ground, and then I brought in the crusher run because I had a lot of it, dampened it down, and then compacted it down, so I got a fairly level base. The leveling sand or the stone dust will take care of the rest of that. So that's what's up next. Again, we're just going to put the weed block down, and then I'll just start bringing back leveling sand. I've got my screed bars here, and these are cut to 2.5 inches as far as the notches, because that's exactly where the leveling sand needs to be, so that when I put the paver base on top of it, it sits nice and flush. We'll have to make a couple minor changes, and nudges here and there, but biggest problem over here is going to be this section, because I can't actually get the entire screed on there, but we'll get pretty close considering what it took to do the other one on the other side. Since we weren't using this method, it should go pretty quickly. But that's where we're at. Just a quick update. Most likely I probably won't record anything else until I get the pavers down. Well, sometimes the well runs dry. It's time to make another drink. But we are done. The paver patio is finished. I've got nothing else to do on it that's specifically related to the paver patio. So how much do I have invested in it at this point? That's probably what everybody wants to know. And that's a difficult question to answer because I bought a lot of things over time, over the last month. I mean, the pavers themselves have sat outside in the driveway for quite some time. But that's also probably the biggest expense out of everything was the pavers for the patio itself. And that was about $1,900 delivered. So I did the math the other day, and we're just shy of 700 square feet. That's a pretty big patio. And so that's not a bad deal. But that's not the only expense. So when we start to look at it, there's a lot of other things associated with it. So I told you guys before I used the Brock paver base. You've seen it in the video. That stuff is very expensive. It's like $12.98 for a sheet, which is 6 square feet. And all told, I probably have about $1,200 invested in just that. But the thing about that Brock paver base is that in the right circumstances, it absolutely does make it easier and more stable to lay the patio. But it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. And what you're actually starting to work with. So you saw I have a mix of things. I have completely undisturbed area, and then I've got an area that had a paver patio on it already. And so for me, it just made the most sense. Plus, I just don't want to have to deal with this again. So $1,200, it's worth it to me, especially that second half of the patio when I was able to just speed through everything. The old half of the patio, I had to do a little bit more surface prep in order to get things to work. You wouldn't normally have to do that if you prepped everything from the start, but that's not where I was at. What else? So other things like crusher run and the stone dust. That was $300, including delivery, for about 4 cubic yards each. And I had a lot left over, believe it or not. But you'd rather have too much than too little. So I've got a guy coming with a pickup truck tomorrow. He's going to take that away for free. That's the spoils awards, the price of doing business. I'm okay with that. What else? Incidentals like the trench drain. So that's my situation, maybe not yours, but that trench drain was about $300 just to buy. It's a little bit less. And then the concrete to put it in and whatnot. The concrete for the pad for our outdoor kitchen, which is in the future. That's not a project right now, but it's there. That adds up. That was probably close to a couple $100 just for that. Things like polymeric sand. The polymeric sand was, I probably have about $120, $130 invested in that. Worth its weight as well once it's installed correctly. And then to cap things off, one of the last things I did was seal the patio, and I used a wet look sealer. That was about $169. And so, yeah, it's a lot, but that was a 5-gallon bucket. But it's, again, worth its weight in gold to keep the wear and tear. It locks the sand together. It makes sure that when kids spill things, they don't stain the pavers. When birds fly over and take a poop on it, things don't get stained. And it makes longevity of the patio just all that much more. It's not something I did before on my old patio, and I've regretted it ever since. So this time, when we had furniture off of it, we weren't going to take that risk. And so all told, I say I probably have about $4,000 invested in it. And that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but for almost 700 square feet, it's actually not that bad. I told you guys before, I had a quote of concrete between $7,000 and $10,000. It just depended on who was going to do it, but that was the average. To have somebody come in and lay this patio, it probably would have been equally, if not more, expensive than those quoted prices for the concrete. And so for $4,000, now what's your sweat equity worth? That's what it all boils down to. Do you have the time, the energy, and the ability to do something like this? And make no mistake, guys, it is very labor intensive. This is something that is going to potentially wear on you. I was very lucky with the weather. It wasn't crazy hot, and it wasn't crazy cold. It was kind of crazy windy a couple days. I think I had a couple 90-degree days, but for the most part, it was very conducive at this time of year to what I wanted to do, and it worked out very well. But a lot of sweat equity. If I added up, I moved about 13,000 pounds of pavers and another 3,000 or 4,000 pounds of base, depending on what I put down and incidentals and things like that. Not to include what I had to take up before I even started, which you saw in the beginning of the video. So, I don't know. Keep that in mind if you're planning this project. Is it worth it to you to have somebody else do this work for you so that you don't have to experience that? Now, all told, I probably have about 2 weeks of time involved in this. That's actually not that bad, but when you think about it, most of those days are 8 to 10 hour days, guys. And I was working pretty hard, and that was just me. Nobody helped me with this, although people offered. Sometimes I'm the guy that actually likes to work by himself just because it's easier and faster for me. But keep that in mind, and when it all boils down to it, your situation is what it is. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I get to sit here and look at what I did. I don't really care about what people think. I care about what I think. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I am very happy with the way that this turned out. And while I didn't really want to do it, I really wanted to pay somebody to do it. This is something I'm going to be able to look at when my family uses. We have a lot of square footage out here, and be pretty happy with it. So that's where we're going to end it off. So what's coming in the future? Well, we still have to build our outdoor bar / kitchen / whatever the hell it is. But that's probably coming later, maybe in the fall. We got to let the coffers build up. This was a significant investment for us. We'll see where it goes. Eventually, I want to put a walkway around to the front of the building, only because most people tend to come around one side when they're coming over. But again, these are first world problems. These aren't things that have to be done. I did end up with enough pavers left over that I can actually do
a redo on our little sun deck over here by the pool, and do them in the same patio pavers that I have here and over in our areaway landing spot, and seal them, and it'll all look exactly the same. When I put it in that little sun deck, I just bought the cheapest pavers I could get because they were on sale. They were about $1 a piece. Take those out, somebody will take them for free, and I can put down the same ones I have here, and everything will tie together. But I think that's another time project. It's not going to be anytime soon. We'll see if we get a decent day. It'll probably only take me half a day to do it. But anyway, guys, thank you for sticking with me this long. This is a pretty long video, and I know it isn't typical. I didn't go step by step on everything that you need to do. This is more the overview and the end result. So I appreciate it. As always, like and subscribe, and stay classy. I will see you later.